During Pam Bondi's explosive hearing in front of Congress, Democrats accused her of trying to deflect from a newly surfaced rape allegation against President Donald Trump found in the Epstein files. They also accused her of creepily tracking how they were searching through the unredacted Epstein files, as well as carrying a burn book of personal attacks instead of answering questions about the Epstein case. Attorney General Pam Bondi is currently being questioned by members of Congress about the Epstein files and the Department of Justice's failure to investigate the claims within. In this now famous photo, a number of Epstein survivors came to the congressional hearing room and stood up and raised their hands when asked who had not been interviewed by Bondi or the Department of Justice. Pam Bondi was not moved by this. She alternated between ignoring the Epstein survivors and even smiling and laughing in the face of their pain. But that wasn't the only embarrassing display of a miscarriage of justice that happened during these hearings. Representative Ted Lieu, a Democrat from California, pressed Bondi about a specific document within the Epstein files that appears to show a report made to the FBI containing a rape allegation against Trump. The DOJ declined to interview this person or any of the associated witnesses, and Representative Lieu wanted to know why. Here's what happened.
I want to discuss another man, Donald Trump, who is all over the Epstein files, like former Prince. Here's a video. Like former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized this operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
I think there are a couple of things worth noting in this video. One, although this doesn't seem unusual for Donald Trump's administration, it is not Pam Bondi's responsibility as Attorney General to protect him. Her loyalty does not lie toward Donald Trump as an individual. Her loyalty should be to the United States of America and all of the people who live within it, including these Epstein survivors who she can't even look in the face. She's made it clear that she is flouting her responsibilities as AG to protect Donald Trump. And the more that comes out from the Epstein files, the clearer it becomes why Donald Trump needs to be protected. Ted Lieu, the representative in that clip, shared these documents on his X account, writing, "Dear AG Pam Bondi, since you creepily spied on the unredacted Epstein files I read, you know I read this one. Witness calls FBI's NTOC and reports girl later found dead, told him Trump and Epstein raped her. When will DOJ interview this witness?" And we can see the heavily redacted FBI report in question here. This is an intake form from October 2020, which means that somebody at the FBI interviewed this witness and wrote down what was said in the conversation. Because it is so heavily redacted, it's a little hard to follow along, but this is the gist of what happened. On October 27th, 2020, at 3:20 p.m. Eastern, this redacted person, date of birth redacted, telephone number redacted, called the FBI National Threat Operations Center unit to report potential information related to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. He reported that around 1997, he made contact with blank. He had known this person from 6 or 7 years prior as they had a son together. Blank and Blank ended up dating, as Blank explained. She was having money issues and problems with her daughters. Blank noted they were friends from before. During the contact in 1997, Blank asked Blank how to spell Ghislaine numerous times, as Blank noted she had taken her daughters up to see one of the supposed fathers who lived in Niagara Falls, New York, recently. Blank reported she had met a lady who invited her daughters, Blank, date of birth Blank and Blank, to a fancy hotel and met Donald Trump and some of his friends in 1997. Blank continued asking Blank how to spell Ghislaine, implying Ghislaine had given her money and would give her additional money if needed. On Christmas Eve of 1999, or the day prior, Blank was over visiting his son, who he had with Blank years prior. He began talking to Blank as she seemed to be acting strange and asked Blank if he needed a ride home. Blank asked him about his time driving a limousine for 2 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. During Blank's time as a driver, he had met Donald Trump. Blank noted he picked up the president in 1995 and took him to the Dallas-Fort Worth airport. Blank reported some of the things President Trump had spoken about during the ride while on his cell phone, which were very concerning. Blank reported he was, quote, a few seconds from pulling the limousine over on the median and within a few seconds of pulling him out of the car and hurting him due to some of the things he was saying, as caller chose not to. Blank noted Trump continuously stated the name Jeffrey while on the phone and made references to, quote, abusing some girl. Blank was unsure who he was talking to nor who he was referencing. As Blank talked about his time meeting Donald Trump, Blank demeanor went stone cold as Blank stated, he raped me. Blank said, what? As Blank replied, Donald J. Trump had raped her along with Jeffrey Epstein. Blank noted some girl with a funny name took me into a fancy hotel or building. That's how it happened. Blank advised Blank to call the police regarding the incident, as Blank stated, I can't, they will kill me. On Christmas Day, Blank contacted Blank, stated she had in fact called the police about what they had talked about. Blank told Blank she had done good. Blank did not hear from Blank or Blank until January 10th, 2000. Blank reached out to Blank, stating Blank was dead, and noted she was found with her head blown off in Kiefer, Oklahoma. Officers on the scene and Blank stated there was no way it was a suicide. Coroner stated it was a suicide. Blank later stated that Blank committed suicide because Blank had gotten cocaine from a Mexican drug cartel. Blank feels the murder is a cover for Ghislaine. The last contact with Blank was after Blank posted this information on Facebook a couple weeks prior. Blank called Blank, yelling that he had put the family in danger. Blank explained Blank had a third daughter named Blank. So this is a very disturbing report, and with all of the redactions, it's hard to follow what happened, but what appears to have happened in this report is that this former limousine driver called the FBI and reported that a woman he had a child with had experienced these things and that her child had made these allegations against Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Representative Ted Lieu isn't saying that these things for sure happened. He's asking the DOJ and Pam Bondi to do the bare necessity of investigating them. The FBI apparently never followed up with this witness or investigated any further. Democrats in Congress are saying now is the time. Better late than never. But Pam Bondi, who can be seen here smiling while Epstein survivors stare at her with daggers in their eyes, she isn't interested in investigating these allegations against Donald Trump. And neither is the DOJ, which is conveniently being led by a lawyer who previously served as Donald Trump's personal counsel. They find these reports to not be credible, even though they haven't done any work to show whether they're credible or not. Instead, Bondi and the DOJ are taking an entirely different tack. They're intimidating the members of Congress who are pushing for answers, as well as arguably the Epstein survivors themselves. By choosing to redact the name of alleged perpetrators, but leave in sensitive information about the victims, doxing them in some cases, leaking intimate imagery of them in some cases, it sends a clear message that the victims here are the ones whose credibility and lives are at stake, not the perpetrators. As Representative Liu noted in his tweet, Pam Bondi is aware of which unredacted Epstein files he's looking at. And as other Congresspeople have made clear, a lot of the files, even the quote unredacted ones that they're supposed to be able to look at privately, aren't really unredacted because they still carry the original redactions that the FBI and other agencies made. So instead of investigating these alleged perpetrators, Bondi and the DOJ are instead keeping tabs on and investigating the members of Congress looking for justice. We know this to be true because in a photo taken at the hearing, you can actually see the piece of paper that Pam Bondi is holding, and it's the search history from Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. You can see the names of the exact documents that she was looking at in the Epstein files. Some of these documents are things like an email that said, "New Brazilian just arrived, sexy and cute, 19 years old." Another one says, "Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty." This one from a Russian model to Jeffrey Epstein says, "I found at least 3 very good young girl, but we was so tired. I will cover up this week. Meet this one, not the beauty queen, but we both like her a lot." The next one says it's a completely redacted Epstein victim list. The next one mentions Sulayem, a Dubai CEO who recently stepped down from his position after the files revealed his close association with Epstein. His email said, "I love the torture video." Then there's a child exploitation and human trafficking task force PowerPoint on the Epstein trafficking. So, one of the questions here is why is the DOJ keeping track of who's looking at these files instead of investigating what's in these files? And the representative in question posted is totally inappropriate and against the separations of powers for the DOJ to surveil us as we search the Epstein files. Bondi showed up today with a burn book that held a printed search history of exactly what emails I searched. That is outrageous, and I intend to pursue this and stop this spying on members. What Representative Jayapal is saying here about the separation of powers rings true. One of the responsibilities of Congress, according to our system of checks and balances, is to keep tabs on the executive branch, not the other way around. Tracking and surveilling what these Congresspeople are doing with the Epstein files isn't just an invasion of privacy or a form of intimidation. It also undermines the balance of power that ensures our democracy remains fair. Even Republican Representative Nancy Mace confirmed that this is happening and called it out. She said, "Yes, I will confirm. DOJ is tracking the Epstein documents members of Congress search for, open, and review. I was able to navigate the system today, and I won't disclose how or the nature of how, but confirmed the DOJ is tagging all documents members of Congress search, open, and review. Based on how I confirmed this, there are timestamps associated with this tracking." And these printouts showing how Congresspeople are searching the Epstein files is just part of Bondi's attack strategy. Reporter Pablo Manriquez was present at the hearing, and he said Bondi has 3 binders in front of her. The burn book appears to be organized by tabs with Democratic names on them. Then he says Democrats laugh in Bondi's face when she tries to filibuster through questions about survivors by hyping the Dow. Representative Gooden mansplains the Epstein survivors, implying they should be focused on the Democrats. Bondi tries to bully Lofgren as the stateswoman kindly questions her about the Epstein files. Lofgren maintains her professional demeanor and continues her questions. Lofgren, like the nicest lady ever, responds to Bondi's personal attacks. I think it's pathetic. Notable that House GOP only want to talk about Biden and Obama. Bondi is the only Republican in this hearing who wants to talk about Trump, LOL. Representative Tiffany, a lawmaker I've never heard of, lies about industrial scale fraud in Minnesota, then bores the room with dumb questions. And then finally, and perhaps most interestingly to me, the women sitting behind Bondi appear to have identical burn books of Democrats, fat white binders, as the one in front of Bondi. While Dems ask questions, the women pass AG notes that seem to show her what page to turn to. So, what we have here appears to be a coordinated effort between the DOJ and Pam Bondi, members of the executive branch, as well as Republican members of Congress, to deflect and obstruct from any questions that have to do with Donald Trump's culpability in the Epstein case, as well as deny justice to these survivors. Again, this totally undermines checks and balances, separation of powers, and the very core of our democratic process. It's also genuinely heart-wrenching to see these survivors ask the highest authority in the land to help them get the justice they deserve, and to not only be denied, but to also be mocked to their faces. And this question of the DOJ spying on Congress members who are looking through the Epstein files has even earned a rare rebuke from House Speaker Mike Johnson, who typically defends the administration and everything it does. He said, "I think members should obviously have the right to peruse those at their own speed and with their own discretion. I don't think it's appropriate for anybody to be tracking that." He told CNN that he would echo that to anybody involved with the DOJ. But it's plain to see that a simple rebuke or simply advising the DOJ on what to do is not enough here. This is a situation that exposes how much corruption is operating at the highest level of government right now. These Democrats are right to call it out, but calling it out to their faces isn't enough. There needs to be some way to investigate and prove whether Donald Trump participated and was implicated in these crimes. The Epstein survivors deserve it, and so do all of the members of the American public.